So I'll be talking about the role of education in promoting healthy masculinity. And one of the things I would like to share is education helps us to acquire some certain skills, knowledge, attitudes, and values in order to become a responsible member of the society. So when it comes to education, there's a sort of like relationship between society and education. Society is sort of like a group of people interacting in a particular setup. So when we look at how we grow up, we would definitely feel like maybe our society is faulty or is faulty, and that's the reason why we have some certain things happening today. And that's why we see that women are marginalized and men feel like, oh, I can't cry, I can't do some certain things. Oh, the head, why the lady is the down, which is very wrong. So there's sort of like things that people have learned in the past. So when it comes to like socialization, education, and society, it's very important to define some of these concepts so we are able to understand how we've been promoting healthy masculinity, how we've been promoting like the let me say negative masculinity. I won't say healthy, negative masculinity from the beginning. So when we say socialization, socialization is more of like a process of learning the norms, the culture of a particular society. And socialization plays a greater role in education. So how do we learn? Like when I was growing up, I mean, I've been told, oh, don't you know that she is a lady? Don't you know that she is a girl? You shouldn't do this. And the truth is that that shouldn't be like that kind of sense. Like I'm feeling like, oh, I have to allow the girl to do some certain things. And allowing means permission. When you're giving somebody permission, which is very wrong, it shouldn't be like allowing someone to do some certain things. It should be they have the right to do some certain things, as I have the right to do some certain things. So these are some of the things that we grew up with, right? Another thing we grew up with is like we have to like if a girl goes to like a supermarket, the girl cannot buy a plane or cannot get a plane. Oh, mommy, I want the plane. Oh, it's not for you. You can't play with that. You have to play with the doll. And these are some of the things that we've learned over time. We've been trained by our parents, by the teachers, by the all agents of socialization. We've been trained by them to behave in some certain way. And that's why somehow people feel like, oh, even people feel like, oh, this is the way I should believe. This is the way I should behave, rather. So when you look at the agent of socialization again, you see that family plays a critical role. Like family is the bedrock of any agent of socialization. The school play a greater role, the religious institutions, the political institution, the economic institution, they are all agents of socialization, and they play a greater role in how we socialize, in how we learn, in how we internalize some of these things that we do today. So when men behave somehow today, it's because of what they've learned over time from their family, from their parents. It's because of what they've learned in school. It's because of what the policies that we have, that support some of these things to happen, rather than promote equality amongst the gender. So there are policies that doesn't favor us. So again, like I said, socialization plays a great role. Socialization is like a tool to achieving education, the process of internalizing skills, knowledge, attitude, and values. And when it comes to socialization, it's very important that in sociology of education, there are like two concepts. There's what we call anticipatory socialization and resocialization. And I was thinking today, like I was thinking about this topic, and I was thinking like the truth is that we've been prepared for the kind of behavior we're having today through our educational system. Men are strong. There was a time I used to read the quote, men should shed blood and not tears. I'm like, how am I supposed to share blood? I'm a human, for God's sake. Why would I share blood? I have to share tears, like I have to be strong. I don't have to cry. I mean, I'm a human, I have to cry. I have the responsibility to love. I have the responsibility to show kindness. Same thing with women. We have the responsibility to show some of these things. So it's sort of like I've been prepared for the kind of behavior I'm having today. So when we say anticipatory socialization is a type of socialization that prepares you for some certain roles in the future. So how are we preparing men for some certain roles in the future? How are we preparing our girl child for some certain roles in the future. So, when you look at it, even in the curriculum in social studies, you say women should cook, women should do this, women should clear this. Like, these are like anticipatory socialization and being inculcated. We have been taught in school, like, this is how we should be, this is how we should behave in the future. Like, so that's anticipatory socialization. While re-socialization is like you can alter a particular process of socialization, then you have to re-socialize based on the change in culture and what is happening already, right? So I think there's a need to promote more of re-socialization than anticipatory socialization. So preparing people for, like, now this is the century we're living in. you know, our culture has gone. We had those culture, those things they are gone already. This is the way we need to behave. This is the way we need to do. This is the way we need to see humans. This is the way we need to see ourselves. So when it comes to healthy masculinity and the role socialization play and education play, healthy masculinity is being honest about who you are, about yourself, showing kindness to the world, understanding that you don't have that strength. The strength you have is not to make somebody, it's not to harm other person. It's not to harm other person. And when you start using your strength to harm other person, it becomes an injustice. That's something. So when it comes to healthy masculinity, it's like we men have to use our strengths or size to ensure that we speak up about issues that are affecting men themselves and that are affecting women in our community or in our society, right? Why can't a woman dream? Why can't you become a pilot? I mean, these are some of the things that happen in our school. Oh, this is your role. You have to be a nurse. Why can't a guy be a nurse? I mean, like when I was growing up, I used to feel like women are nurses, like when I was growing up. So if they mention nurse, the first thing I think about is women. But now I realize that anybody can be anything that you want to be, so far you can aspire, you can, become what you want to be. And that's where education comes in, and I'll be sharing some certain things. So role of education in promoting healthy masculinity, gender equality, and women's rights. So let's go back to the classroom. I think I would allow us to reflect, go back to those things that happen in the classroom. So whenever they are sharing roles in the classroom, what happens? I could recall during our morning duty in school, you see girls, they say girls, you see guys themselves saying, oh, girls, you are the one sweeping, and then they just wait, right? And they just sit at the window, then they watch. So when that happens, it means that you're telling girls that your role is to sweep, like you don't have, and the role is to stand up. A guy can sweep, a lady can sweep. So when we are designing rosters in school, if we have educators here, when we are designing rosters, we should design rosters in such a way that everybody, participates. You can sweep. You have to learn how to sweep to have a guy. I mean, that's it. And as a lady, you also have to learn how to sweep. And then what happens in school? Like, let me give you another instance. Like, a guy throws a pen, like mistakenly, a pen drops on the lap of the girl. And then the next thing you do as a student is to pick it up, rubbing the pen and rubbing the lady's lap. I think it starts from there. Like, you should be able to ask for permission, consent, rather to pick up that pen. Sorry, my pen fell on your lap. Can I pick it up? But these are some of the things that happens in school that we don't know, right? And then the guy growing up, picks up the pen without asking for consent, and then rub the hand on the lady's lap, and that's how it happens. Oh, I have the right over your body. A lady is now an object. We have to. This is how it starts from. This is how we learn from school. Right? I can touch you like this. Why would you touch me like this in school? And then that's where the role of policy in education comes in. Teaching some of these things, being conscious of teaching some of these things in school. Right? You have to teach some of these things in school. We have to ensure that, when you want to ask for something in such a way like that, when something falls on maybe a girl's body or something happens in the class, or you want to even like seek for consent, don't just touch the person, or don't just eat. Like, even when we're in school, you can see a lady can pass, and then you just see those guys, they eat the lady in the class, and nothing happens in the school, right? These are some of the things that happen, and these are some of the things we need to communicate, through our educational system, through the way we interact, through the way we even interact with both men and boys in the classroom. So one of the things is we need to bring conversation around these things. We need to talk about these things openly, because if when things happen, you see they will bring them to the eye. No, you don't have to. I mean, it shouldn't happen that way. It's something we should talk about openly in the classroom, right? And that's the role the teachers play, right? There's a role of the teacher, there's a role of the school administrator, there's a role of the policy, people who make the policies, right? So when it comes to policy making, how do we make policies? I don't see policies I don't see the educational policy promoting healthy masculinity in the classroom. I don't see that happening, right? In fact, men find it difficult to say I love you, which is difficult. Like, I can't say that because I'm a strong person. As you can say I love you, the lady can also say the same thing. If I can propose to someone, the lady can also propose to me as well. Like, so we need to ensure that women, we need to ensure that we train people, both men and boys, as full person, right? As a full person, because education helps to build a well-rounded personality, a well-rounded citizen. And if you're building boys to be a well-rounded personality, we also have to build girls being a well-rounded personality. And then you see even roles happen in the class, even in the classroom when they are doing debates, because people learn through some certain things like demonstration. People learn, and we do a sort of like when we're in school, we used to do what do we call this thing? Drama, right? And then you see the drama, you see the way the roles are being designed. Oh, the guy is the doctor, and when the guy is the doctor, the girl becomes, there are some certain roles that they do. And I mean, there's nothing wrong in making lady a doctor, right? In the role, all of those drama, because that's what they learn. Children are very sensitive, they have perception. And the way you're training them, teaching them some of these things, they are perceiving themselves as this is how I should be, and this is how I should behave. And then it's internalized, because by the time they get to some certain age, they are not able to like cope again. People internalize, both guys and girls, they people internalize things. So it's very, very important that as part of our early intervention program, or as part of the way we communicate roles in the classroom, we give everybody an equal ground in the classroom, to compete. We give them an equal ground to choose whatever character they want to be, right, in the classroom. So these are some of the things education plays. Education inculcates some of these skills and values and attitude, into the male folks, right? So that's what happens. And again, education should also teach you how to hold people accountable. So let's take, for instance, I mean, if a guy does something, I mean, and the other guy sees it, instead of supporting the guy in the classroom, it's the role of the guys to hold them accountable in the classroom. Like, you did this, is wrong, I'm going to hold you accountable. And this is, like when you start promoting all of those things in the classroom, we have responsible men who are able to like say that, when they see some of these things in the future, they are able to like talk about it. And that's why these things happen. I've forgotten this thing, bystander. There's what we call bystander. I've forgotten. Like, you see the case rape happening or something, then you just move away. It's not my business. I'm a guy. I'm not affected. Or you see the issue, you don't want to talk about it openly. And that's what is happening today. That some of this issue, people are actually going through it. Like, men wants to talk about it, but they are scared of what other people will say. And what education does is that education liberates you to speak up around this issue. And so the first thing we have to do first is that we have to look from the policy perspective to revolve our policy in such a way that we're able to allow men to be honest about themselves. We're able to ensure that we promote equal ground based on the day-to-day activities, based on the day-to-day rules that is happening in the classroom, to ensure that women can equally participate in leadership. Even in the election in the classroom, you see, why would it be that guys have to be the class captain and girls have to be the vice class captain? That's what it happens every time. So the moment the election comes, I'm the class captain. Automatically, the girls too, they'll be the vice class captain. Even in debates, you see most times. Sometimes people say, no, they are giving women a chance. You don't have to give them. We have the right. You don't need the permission. Oh, we're giving women a chance. And in such a way, we are saying that in such a way we are promoting what we call feminism light. I don't know if anybody have heard about that concept. Like when they say what a man can do, a woman can do better. Like Mr. Solomon shared earlier, it's a statement of people who actually don't want to promote equality or gender equality. what a man can do, a woman can do better. What a man can do, a woman can do as well. Right. So it's not about what a man can do, and what a man can do better, a woman can also do better. I mean, it's just sort of like that equal ground. So all of these kind of statements naturally feels like you start feeling yourself that this is who you are in the society. This is the kind of role you have. This is the kind of role you have to play. And then you start preparing for some certain things, and you start internalizing some certain things, because there are some certain things we even do that promotes a negative masculinity that we don't know that we do it, right? Or you want to carry something, or maybe I face this every day, even in my house. I want to carry something, and you're calling yourself a man. You cannot even carry this thing. See the way you are doing like woman. Leave. You know, and it happens in the class. Teachers communicate some of these things in the classroom. Teachers communicate and share some of these things in the classroom. So it's very, very important that we also train our teachers to learn how to promote equality in the classroom. As much as we have training teachers to be well-grounded, to be able to deliver their instruction, they also need to deliver their instruction from that gender perspective in such a way that when they are delivering the instruction, children are not internalizing some certain things, you know, in the classroom, right? And then they are transforming some of these things into the society. You know, they are going into the society to take some of these things into the society. So we need a training that allows, you know, that promote teachers. So when we come to when we are training, when we are designing policies to train teachers, we need to consider equality in the classroom as like a policy topic or a policy solution that needs to be inculcated in the classroom. You know, so that's one thing I want to look at. So we need to look at policy development, how, you know, leadership in the classroom, leadership position, how women run, how guys run, how we give people equal and fair ground to run. Not saying that automatically a guy has to be a class captain and automatically the lady has to be the vice. I mean, everybody can run, everybody can lead, everybody can. I mean, there was even a time I faced this and I had to fight myself too as well. There was a time I was a deputy commandant in the Nigerian Red Cross in my school, and the lady was like the commandant, and I'm like, oh, when lady lead, this is how they behave, this is something, they are like this. And I started feeling, you know, so it affected that relationship I had, you know, with the person, and some certain things the way I'm supposed to support, you know, the lady. And the truth is that if a guy were to be in any position, they can also behave the same way, understanding that this is how people can behave and people can relate, not basing assumptions on gender, right? And that's why we need to as we are arming guys with resources, we also need to arm girls with resources. As you're giving guys equal resources, we need to also give ladies equal resources to learn and to have a fair playground in the society, and to enable them oh my God, to position them for some certain opportunities, right? So that's one. So first and foremost, we need to look at the policy aspect to make this happen. And through the policy aspect, we need to look at teachers training. We also need to look at school heads, you know, because school heads are the one that makes day-to-day policies in the classroom. School heads, they're the one that make day-to-day policies in the classroom. You know, they are like in charge. They are the one that what they say is what the teachers follow. So how do we also train school heads to ensure that they promote some of these things? Because some of these things happen under the auspices of the school, auspices of the school, and, you know, under their guidance, under their control, right? They are the one that teachers, they are the major implementers of the curriculum. So how do they implement? How do they do some of these things? There's a need for us to train school heads. There's also the need to include the ministries as well, driving education policy, making some of these policies happen, because it won't get to the school head, or it won't get to the teachers, as well as it won't get to the students when the ministries makes the wrong policies, right? The Ministry of Education. I mean, it starts from there, right? So these are some of the things we need to do to ensure that you know, we promote sort of like wholeness in the classroom, and raising full men and women, and reviewing all of the old curriculum that promotes negative masculinity, that says that the man is the breadwinner of a family. You know, you read it in social studies and you feel like that's it, because what you read is what you know, and you feel like, oh, that's how it should be. You know, not saying that you know, the girls too can be breadwinners and everything. So okay. So I just want to continue giving some of these examples because it's something that happened with me personally. But I think as advocates and as education policy advocates, I think we should go ahead now, like we should go on to create advocacy solution or advocacy policy solutions that promoted the masculinity in the classroom and equality in the classroom. I think that's the role we can play now as advocates, because awareness is the beginning of transformation. So we should go ahead and keep creating that awareness so that we can create this change that we want to see. And thanks, Love, for actually creating this platform to advocate for edu masculinity and to promote gender equality as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kaede. That was really insightful. Yesterday we also learned that, you know, male and females, like, they need to be given the same level of expectations, the same level of responsibilities. You know, it's not really about what gender you are as much as it is about who has the most capabilities and who can do better at every position. So thank you very much. Thank you for coming here. I have some questions for Kaede. Kaede, would you like me to ask all the questions at once, or would you like me
all
to
the questions at once. Yeah.
Okay, so the first question is, what strategies do you suggest for training teachers on gender sensitive programs? The second question is, the family is the first point of education to a child. What can the parents do to promote healthy masculinity amongst their children and children around?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So you see, concerning the teachers training, I think let teachers also go through it themselves. I think, yeah, let teachers go through it themselves. Like, when you're doing the training, when people go through the injustice themselves, then they know how it feels, they know how it looks like. So if you're doing training for teachers or want to train teachers, put them through that scenario, put them in the scenario, put them in that situation where where you make teachers boys and girls, and you make them like you're teaching them. You make teacher boys, you make teachers girls, you put them in a classroom scenario, and then those things will be happening. I'm telling you. You see how it happens with interaction within the way they will be behaving, and that's how you're able to educate them, and that's how you're able to see that this is what happens in your classroom. So I think one of the things we need to look at is, using that scenario, using that practical scenario, putting them in that condition of how girls are being marginalized in the classroom, on how male, maltreat girls in the classroom, even if they don't know. Sometimes we commit an injustice and we don't know we're committing it, or we're doing something and we don't know we're doing it. So it's very important that we actually do that. Let's see how consent plays in the classroom. Put them into that consent scenario. Like Solomon said, that consent it happens in stages, it happens in real time. Put them in that position where it will happen real time. That's our education. That's you.
So like I said, you have to put teachers in that condition, and that's the best way they can learn. Because sometimes learning is experiential. It has to happen experiential. So if one or train teachers, rather than there's always. I mean, it's not that we don't even have topics on equality. We have topics on equality. We have sessions on equality, but it's more of like somebody is looking at the screen and somebody is delivering the topic to me. But put them into the condition. People learn more when they go through the problem, when they go through the challenge, like this sort of like experiential learning. So I think that's one of the best approach that works in education. I mean, I've been an educator since I think I started teaching when I was 15 years old, and I could recall that one of the things that works with experiential learning. It works a lot when you put people in the situation and they're able to learn, they're able to bring the lessons, then start asking them some key questions, and they're able to share and interact and openly. So that's one thing I want to say. So for parents, I think there's a generational gap and a generational problem already. It's a very big one, and it's a problem to it's something that we all go through even in our family, right? So like they're affected by the way they were raised as well, and so they bring in those things, and they bring it and incorporate it to their kids. So they're like, let's up our kids key into the system, and these are the system that doesn't work. What I mean by system that doesn't work, like how when a girl works somehow, you see them, they would have to say, hey, stop, this is how a girl should work. But this girl or this lady is a full person, right? I mean, I could recall my cousin when he was growing up. I mean, like everybody had the responsibility to cook. So the guy was taught how to cook. Like he cooks for everyone in the house, and they had the females in the house. And when it's everybody responsibility. So everybody had their roles. As the boys were cooking, the guys, the ladies too, they were cooking. Like everybody had the time that they cook. Like everybody have their own responsibility to do the work. So I think somehow, the way parents treat. So somehow parents would say, "Oh, you don't need, you're a boy, you should just sit down," and then the girls in the house, right, they will be the one to bring the food for you. And that's the way you might likely see the female gender, it's the way that culture that happens in the house. So it's very important that parents unconsciously do those things unknowingly and inculcate those into their child. So I think it's very, very important that we raise our child as a full person, as a parent. We equip them, we talk to them about issues like this, we sit down, we have that interaction on the dining table where the conversation, like, you know, have those unusual conversation with the kids. Let them understand that this is how it should be, like the roles, like this is how, like, debunk those gender roles, debunk those gender roles and train both male and female as a full person. The way you raise a boy is the way you raise a girl child. Arm them with books, arm them with resources, arm them with the lens of how they can see the world. Because when they leave your house, they will learn from the outside world. They will learn from other people. So it's very, very important that you're able to teach them how they can see the world, how they can, like, arm them with the resources so that they can able to, they will make judgments, right? So they're able to make right judgments. So I think it's more of like parenting, and parenting is more of like relationship. Parenting is just like leadership. It's relationship. It's having conversation with them, letting them understand some of these things. And I think the first step to changing our kids to, like, to talking to them, the first step to talking to them, not changing them, because you can't change someone, right? You can always compliment you, like you can help them to find themselves, right? Yeah, that's what I would do. You can help them to find themselves. They are like a guardian. So one of the things I would say that first thing, parents need to work on themselves first, because if you don't work on your own insecurity, you're going to pass your insecurity to the kids. So you work on yourself, and then, if you know that you have this problem, be aware that you have this problem, and then, be open, and then, and because if you're able to change those things within you, that's when you're able to guide, or you're able to guide your children. So I think that's one thing I would just like to point out, and I would like to share. Yeah, basically.
Thank you so much, Kayode. Yes, thank you so much. It's so true what you said. Children will learn much, much faster from experience and from the example that you show them than they would from just the things that you tell them to do. Nowadays, children are not even listening to their parents anymore. They want to know why. Why do we have to do this? Why do we have to do that? But if you show them rather than tell, then the probability that they would follow in your footsteps is much higher.